Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex P. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys NHL Western Conference season preview show. Ian Cameron and Alex B. Smith with you. Of course, yesterday we were with you to talk Eastern Conference season preview. Today we're going to look at the West, and certainly from Alex's standpoint, he's more involved, and certainly from a betting standpoint, definitely more heavily involved with the Western Conference. And actually, if you ask me, I think there's a few more opportunities as well. With the Western Conference, as far as all the categories that we're going to go through, just like with yesterday's show. I like this new format. I really enjoyed that yesterday, where we go season point totals, season-long player props, regular season awards props, and then Stanley Cup futures and best bets. We will have those again, and we will also preview the Friday and Saturday opening to the NHL regular season overseas in Czechia, as the New Jersey Devils and Buffalo Sabres will get the season started with a back-to-back set of games in Czechia. Of course, this is our last live show until next Tuesday, when we have our official season premiere edition of the show on the North American opening night. So that is why we're going to do the New Jersey Buffalo previews for you today here on our Western Conference season preview show. But Alex, it was fun yesterday talking Eastern Conference, and thank you again to Jordan Sambrook for joining us yesterday. And looking forward to talking about the, as always, very competitive, very rugged Western Conference.
Absolutely. I mean, anyone who's watched the show for the last 7 years knows that I'm more of a fan of the Western Conference. I'm a Blackhawks fan. I live here in Minnesota, so following the Wild literally up the street. But like I said, it's always competitive. It's always interesting, and every time we have a season where it seems like, oh, there's the clear-cut, favorites in the West, and then there's just the bottom of the barrel in the West. And then all of a sudden, things get mixed up in the middle, and we see some teams start off slow. Think about Edmonton last year. Everyone loved Edmonton at the beginning of the season. Then all of a sudden, you look and they're 3-10-1. So, we think they're dead in the water. They hire a new coach, and everything goes right at the end, all the way until the very end, of course. But you never know what's going to happen with the West. It's always fun. It's always unpredictable. The travel, of course, is different because you've got teams going on to the actual West Coast in the Midwest. So there's always these little different nuances and things. So I've always been partial to finding things in the West. And like I say, the bulk of my future bets involve clubs in the West. So we'll talk about them today.
No doubt, I'm looking forward to it. Of course, the Western Conference, a conference where we have seen, different teams emerge the last few years. We saw, of course, Edmonton win the West last year. We saw, of course, Vegas win it the year before that, Colorado. And, of course, those teams certainly you would think are going to be in the mix and in the conversation once again to come out of the West and be in the Stanley Cup final this season. Let's begin as we did yesterday with the season. There we go. Let's get the right category up there. Season point totals. These are, of course, team season point totals, over or under. We certainly had a bunch that we liked yesterday in the Eastern Conference preview. As far as season point totals this year in the West, there are a few that do stand out to me. I will start with one that I like here for the upcoming season in the West. I wasn't necessarily sold on this right off the hop, and there's still part of me defensively that worries a little bit about this team. But I'm going to take a shot here with the Utah Hockey Club over 88.5 points. I think based on the Delta Center and being in that venue, I've seen the atmosphere in the preseason games that they've had so far, popping, really, really strong, atmosphere in that arena. They're into it. And really, it's not asking a lot for them to be more excited and into it than what we saw in Arizona the last few years. They're at, going all the way back to Gila River Arena in Glendale, and then, of course, the Mullet Arena in Tempe after that. But no, there's no doubt they're excited. They're amped up for hockey, for NHL hockey in Utah. I have no debate whatsoever that if they get over this point total, it's largely going to be because of that great offensive ability this team has. That's not the question. Certainly, they're going to be able to score goals with Clayton Keller and everyone that emerged last year on that team. They're going to have certainly a bunch of ability to score goals in bunches, without a doubt. And I think that's not going to be an issue. I like what they did on defense, though. The Utah Hockey Club with Mikhail Sergachev now here, with bringing in a veteran like Ian Cole, a little physicality with Robert Bortuzzo. They like Michael Kesselring quite a bit. Valimaki and Dursey rounding out the blue line. John Marino hurt right now, but he'll be a part of that blue line as well at some point. So there's no doubt I think they've upgraded their blue line. The blue line is better on paper. We know they can score up front with Keller, Hayton. Dylan Gunther's going to have a monster year. If you can find any Dylan Gunther props, bet him. Because that's I've given it away for season-long player props category, but I'll just say it right now. Dylan Gunther props I like quite a bit. We saw him just go wild, finding the back of the net, making it happen offensively for Arizona toward the end of last year. And now with Utah, I think you're going to see Dylan Gunther a full season here with the hockey club, really have a great year, playing with Logan Cooley. Lawson Krause, of course, is a good power forward for this team. Matias Michelli, one of the early season surprises offensively last year. Don't count him out. No, I'm sorry. Michael Carcone was the guy with that, but kind of cooled off after. But don't forget about him. Matias Michelli as well, who can score and can play make as well. And he's down on the third line. Carcone's down on the fourth line. Krause could start the season on the third line. Josh Doan may be on the fourth line to begin the season for the Utah Hockey Club, which tells you really all you need to know about how potentially this team could be lethal offensively. So I'm buying into the offense. I'm buying into the defense and the blue line being upgraded. The one concern is in net. That obviously is, because Connor Ingram was great last year for the most part. Can he be that way again? Was that a flash in the pan 1 year thing? Or can he also have a strong season in net this year for Utah? That's going to be interesting. And because if Ingram falters, they're going to need more from Karel Vejmelka, who had a down year big time. They also have Matt Villalta, someone in the system that got a couple of games of playing time, but he's still a raw, work in a project basically in between the pipes. Ready for steady NHL duty right now. I'm not so sure. So the goaltending is going to be important, but having a better blue line in front of these goalies should help them, because I definitely think they've upgraded there. But their strength is going to be offense. Their strength is going to be the forward group, which is very deep. Lots of depth. They can score on all four lines, and the power play should be good as well. And I like the coach. I like what Andre Tourigny's done. I am buying in too, Alex, because look at Andre Tourigny since he got there, the way the franchise has gone. Improvement in their season record every year that he's been there. Every year they've gotten better under Andre Tourigny. Year 1, year 2, year 3, and this is now the 4th year for Andre Tourigny as head coach of Utah, formerly Arizona. So, yeah, I'll go over 88.5 points. I mean, you got to look at one of these teams in the West potentially to make a big improvement. And certainly, I think the situation is nice for them. I'm seeing the players say what you want about the leisure part of it and the lifestyle part of it, leaving a place like Arizona where you can golf and the weather's always awesome. From a fan reception standpoint, and from just playing in front of a raucous building and a loud home, a real legit home ice finally, the players are excited about that here in Salt Lake City. So, yeah, like I said, not a best bet point total, but I thought there was enough. The more I've seen what I've seen in the preseason, the more I look at what the potential is for this Utah team, that to go over 88.5 points, to be an 89-plus point team, I think there's a chance they can do that this year. So Utah over their point total for me. Alex, one of the point totals that you like in the West.
Well, I'll just quickly say that I'm telling you on that. I like that Utah hockey club over, but I grabbed it differently. I got 87.5 over at plus 102. That's at FanDuel. But I also got them to earn 90 or more points plus 115 at FanDuel. So shop around and look at some of those markets. You can find
absolutely
some price.
Get 87.5. If it's still there, you should get that number.
Get an 87.5 as opposed to an 88, but then you can also go up literally another win and go 90 or more points at plus 115. So definitely definitely want to shop around, get the best value with some of these markets because you have some things that are mirroring each other. But another one I like, and it's a team that I'm not high on in the Central Division, right here in my own backyard. It's the Minnesota Wild. I'm going under 95.5 points. I laid $1.20 with this. And everybody just seems to think that this is a Wild team that's going to try and fight for a wild card spot, not realizing the fact that they are just paper thin at every direction. We saw the injuries with Jared Spurgeon. He came back. He's skating well. He scored a goal in the last preseason game. But we know he's a guy who's often injured. And if he takes one big hit, he's a guy that can end up all of a sudden missing a few games. There's plenty of these guys in this lineup that just are not durable enough. And then when they are in the lineup, they're not consistent enough with their scoring. Joel Eriksson is a fantastic two-way player. He's always going to give you the effort defensively, but his offense is going to come in spurts and waves. Kirill Kaprizov is a shining superstar in this league, could be one of the top 10 players in this league, but he's not consistent enough. And this is a Wild team that we've seen have tons of talent and just find ways to not be able to put all of it together. You add to the fact that you have an aging Marc-Andre Fleury in his final year. How is he going to respond? He's been declining the last couple of seasons from where he was at the tip top of his career with Pittsburgh and Vegas. Also, keep in mind the fact that he's going to be going on the farewell tour. It's going to be a huge ceremony when he goes to Pittsburgh for that last game. It's probably going to be a whole bunch of boos and cheers when he goes to Philadelphia for his last game because they hated him for the last 12, 13 years prior. How the motivation and the emotions every night with Fleury, especially as things wind down the second half, are going to be interesting. And then you have Jesper Wallstedt, who may be starting with this club, and they may be carrying three goaltenders, which leaves Philip Gustafson kind of in the wind. Does he get traded? Does he want to get traded? Do they want to try and give him some starts to try to rest Fleury and then bring Wallstedt in different spurts? When you have three goalies, that's an absolute nightmare. And that's not a spot you want to ideally be in. You don't want to ruin Wallsted's run. He is the future, but you have to do right by Fleury. But you also have to do right by Gustafson, and he's your best goalie of the three more often than not. I think there's just a logjam of issues. There's been issues with even I've been hearing rumblings here in the cities and fans and stuff. Fans don't really care for what Guerin has done. I think Bill Guerin's a fantastic GM. I think he's one of the best GMs in the league. I think he's managed everything well in spite of what people seem to forget. There's $14 million that can't be spent because one guy's playing in St. Louis, the other guy's sitting on his couch right now with Parise and Suter. Their hands are tied. So Guerin's doing a masterful job with what he has as far as cap space goes, but people aren't happy with it. We know how John Hines, his stops in Nashville and New Jersey. We've never been crazy about the style of play he has. Okay, so having him with a full camp under his belt, are these guys going to get better offensively, or are they going to regress? Are they going to become a team that works so hard on defense that they forget about offense? Haven't we heard that before in Minnesota? Few other coaches back in the day. It doesn't look good for me. I think there's better talent. Like I said, Utah looks better. Nashville's a hell of a lot better. We know how good Dallas and Colorado can be. The Hawks might even improve a little bit. I think this is a down year for Minnesota, and I don't think that's a bad thing either because it's a team that once you get that $14 million albatross off the books, once you figure out if Kaprizov even wants to stay here or not, because that's a question that's arose of late as well too, with him, his contract coming up pretty soon, you got to make a decision. And if he's not going to stick around, you better not let him walk for nothing. You're going to have to make a trade and get a lot back for him. Once those questions are answered, I think it ends up being this is a team that will be contending in a couple of years, but this seems like it's going to be a big down year, and I'm betting accordingly. So under 95.5 points with the Minnesota Wild.
All right, under for the Minnesota Wild of their point total for Alex B. Smith. And Alex is right about the make sure you shop around because you're right. You will see some differences with not only player prop numbers, but the season point total numbers, one book to the next. Sometimes I've even seen a 2-win difference. I should say 2-point difference from one book to the next. So definitely it is worth your while to shop around and look for the best number at all time with all of these. All right, I'm going to give you another season point total here that I'm liking here from the Western Conference this season. And this is a team that just let me see here where it is. There we go. It's another over. It's Seattle. Over 87.5. I've been burned by this team last year, certainly. And this one, I think I like the Utah one a little bit more. I was actually going to mention an under, but I have a feeling it might be on Alex's list, the one I'm thinking of. So I might save it for him. But as far as Seattle, you're right. I think over their point total is achievable. I think there's going to be, certainly you talk about another team that offensively needs some new energy. Seattle needs that. The one thing about Seattle is with Dan Bilesma and his staff, you're going to see a little bit more pace, more tempo. We've talked about this all off season. We've talked about this in the Seattle team preview video about how, look, they're going to be more aggressive offensively. Defensemen are going to be given the opportunity to pinch at the blue line in certain situations to keep plays alive. They're just going to become a team that's going to take more chances, at the offensive end, let their players be creative with the puck. And I think they lost quite a bit of that last year, the Seattle Kraken, because they just tried to play so defensive-minded for such a long period of time. The more I watch this team here in the preseason and you look at what the roster's made of, they're going to need, obviously, Jared McCann to be great. They're going to need Matty Beniers to have a much better year. I think he will. He's probably the guy that I would target from player props for Seattle, is Matty Beniers. I think he's got a much better season in him. Remember, this is a guy that 2 years ago, had that very, very strong first full season in the NHL, 57 points, 24 goals. It declined to 37 points and just 15 goals last year. Year 3 now, I think he's more comfortable. He's going to be in a system that's going to benefit him and open up probably the potential for him on the offensive side. So I think that's going to benefit him. Eberle at this stage of his career, can he get through 82 games? If he can, he's still very effective as far as chipping in offensively. I love the Chandler Stevenson addition for this hockey team. Going to help them, and he's coming off some of his best offensive years of his career with Vegas. Burakovsky, again, health pending, can be a big time, scorer for them as well. We know that. They can get something from the bottom 6, especially that third line. Third line on paper this year, Alex, could be Eli Tolvanen. We know he's capable offensively. Oliver Bjorkstrand. We know he's capable offensively. And look who's heating up again in the preseason, just like he did down the stretch when he got that late season call-up. Shane Wright, guys, is starting to percolate. He really is. He scored, I believe, last night for Seattle in a preseason game for them. Shane Wright just said, look, we were concerned, and everyone's saying, what's wrong with this guy? For how highly he was drafted. Why is it taking him so long to burst his way through to the NHL? Well, sometimes you just have to be patient, and patience is being rewarded right now for Seattle with Shane Wright. I think he's ready now for the NHL, certainly way more than he was before, and he has the potential to be that extra spark offensively, that they are going to need from that bottom 6 group. And that has the potential to be not just a good two-way line, those 3 guys, Tolvanen, Wright, and Bjorkstrand, but they're all capable offensive players and talents as well. So there's going to be a nice possibility that they have 3 really strong offensive, 3 lines that can definitely score goals. The fourth line is going to be interesting. Tanev, it's going to be a crash and bang line, forecheck line. Brandon Tanev, Yanni Gord, Ryan Winterton, maybe John Hayden gets in there. You want a real crash and bang line, you put John Hayden on that line with Gord and Tanev, and all of a sudden you really have a physical, pound your head through the glass type of line there on that fourth line. So that's going to be something to watch. The blue line is, I think, pretty solid if they're avoiding injury. And they have a 7th defenseman in Josh Mahura, who comes over from the Florida Panthers, the Cup champions. So a little more depth there. You've got Dunn, Larson, Oleksiak, Brandon Montour brought in from the Florida Panthers, of course. Riker Evans, they really like him. Will Borgen. That's not a bad 6. And then you've got Josh Mahura, as an extra if there's an injury. So I like that. And I got to admit, for the goaltending, Grubauer's the one I've got a little concern about. Older now, hasn't been nearly as good and consistent. Was better last year, there's no doubt, than the disaster 2 years ago he was with Seattle. But last year he was better. And I like Joey Daccord. I know Alex does as well. So I think they're solid enough in net, to be competitive most nights. So, yeah, and I like the coaching change. A little breath of life, little first year. A lot of times the first year you get that team maybe playing above their level. And getting the most out of them. And a new voice, I think, was kind of needed. And especially the fact that there's going to be some offensive freedoms and creativity opened up for this team this season with Dan Bilesma behind the bench. So, yeah, we'll go over the total here with the Seattle Kraken this season. Alex, what else do you like? Western Conference season point totals, and also a thought on Seattle if you have one.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm gonna give a thought on Seattle, and I'm just checking now because it's something. Keep in mind the first 4 nights of the season, the lines have actually been up for well over a month, which is unprecedented. And one of the first things I bet was Seattle, St. Louis over 5.5. Now I think all the 5.5s are gone. I'm checking again to see. There's a few of them around. Most of them have turned to 6. If you can find the 5.5, I see a lot of Canadian books that have 5.5s. I would suggest grabbing that now before they all do disappear between now and Tuesday afternoon. So that's the one look I like. But like I said, Bilesman, I agree with you. I think he's going to bring a breath of fresh air, get that offense rolling, something that we just couldn't see from Hacksaw in that group at times. It just wasn't consistent enough. He's been working with these guys, him and Jessica Campbell as well, first female assistant coach in NHL history, working with the power play, working with that offense in the last couple of years in Coachella Valley. Now they get to bring that system up here, and then it's going to pay dividends for Seattle. But another point total I like, and I mentioned it before, another Central Division team, it's the Nashville Predators. I went over 99.5 minus $1.15. Now shop around because I saw 100 points or more at FanDuel at minus $1.10. 5 cents, but you're still saving 5 cents. I think this team is going to be massively improved. I mean, it obviously we all look at the big improvement of Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault up front, giving this team a true group of solid top 6 forwards, something we haven't really seen from them in quite a while, to add along with one of the best defensemen in hockey in Roman Josi, and just a solid defensive core, and a newly signed potential lease, fresh lease on life now that he's the guy for the next decade in the Music City, UC Saros between the pipes. I think this is a solid team, and like I said, based on how things are going in the Central, they should be able to make that move up. Andrew Burnett did a wonderful job with this team last year, and now with even more skill and more speed, they're going to be absolutely dangerous. Bridgestone Arena is going to be another tough place to play in, again, like it was back in the 2016, 2017 days when they won the West, when they won the, what's the banner they have up there? The Western Conference Regular Season Championship, something that doesn't actually exist. But I think they'll bring that kind of level of energy and play this season, and the fans will be happy. So let's go over with the Nashville Predators.
Yeah, that's on my card too. Again, like I said, it's for a team that was as good as they were last year. Now you bring in a Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, Brady Shea, and I think it's got the potential to be a really, really strong year. And Roman Josi gets all the talk. Watch Dante Fabro. This guy has grown leaps and bounds, the last year or two on the blue line for the Nashville Predators. So excited to see what they can do this year. All right, one more. There's probably more that I have, but I'm trying to isolate it to just 2 or 3 season point totals. One more. I thought Alex might go here, but I'll go here now. Los Angeles Kings under for me with the LA Kings with this team. We know the look, it was already a team I had some questions about coming into the season. First of all, when you look up front, we'll start there. Kopitar Kempe, let's be honest. Kempe kind of tailed off last year. Not what we expected. Kevin Fiala, good scorer. Can he stay healthy? Quentin Byfield was one of the player that definitely broke through finally for the LA Kings last year. Can he be that kind of consistent offensive threat night in, night out? What will you get from Warren Fogle, who was brought in from the Edmonton Oilers? I like Warren Fogle, but again, there's been ups and downs and consistency in his offensive game at times as well. And my biggest concern is what will you get from the bottom 6 offensively? Philip Deneau is going to have to produce for you. Trevor Moore, can he keep going? And then after that, Tanner Jeannot doesn't give you much offensively. This fourth line, Trevor Lewis, Alex Turcotte, I don't know what you're going to get. Akil Thomas showed a little bit last year. He's going to have to deliver some kind of punch from that fourth line. The blue line, here's the problem with Drew Doughty's injury. Is Drew Doughty as good as he was 10 years ago when they were winning cups and they had the dynasty and they had the great run under Daryl Sutter? No. But he is still a very good defenseman. He still plays in every situation, all the minutes still at this stage of his career. And it's not so much that you're missing the 2014, Norris candidate version of Drew Doughty, but you're still missing a great defenseman, still a very good one at his age. And who's going to replace those minutes? Who's going to play 5-on-5, power play, penalty kill, all those situations, and all those minutes for the LA Kings without Drew Doughty? I like Gavrikov, but you're going to need more from him. And I like Jordan Spence, but right now, Jim Hiller's got him penciled in to be a top pair defenseman. Do we know if Jordan Spence is ready at this point in time for that? That's a big question. Brant Clark and Joel Edmondson, I think, has the potential to be a good pair, but this is putting a lot on their plate. And I especially like Brant Clark. I think he's going to be a really good defenseman in this league for a long time to come. But again, is he ready for that kind of responsibility this soon? And then you got Mikey Anderson, Kyle Burrows, and Andreas Englund. That's asking a lot of these players to all play more minutes, have more responsibility, especially when your goaltenders are Darcy Kemper and David Riddick. Okay, so that's going to be the big concern I have. Without Drew Doughty, that's not the same level of protection that you're giving goalies. That when Kemper's case coming off the worst year of his career by far in Washington, and then David Riddick, who you never know what you're going to get on a nightly basis, and more often than not, it's more bad than good. As we say, when it's great, it's big save Dave. When it's bad, it's big sieve Dave. We've said that for years here on this show. So I just think, and the way the Western Conference is made up around them, with a lot of teams that are going to be contending again, and then there's teams that were out of the playoffs that are going to get better, that are going to challenge to take the throne, so to speak, from the LA Kings of a playoff spot. I think it's just a challenge here to ask the LA Kings to be a 97 or more point team this season. So FanDuel has -122, LA Kings under 96.5 points, and I am on that.
Yeah, so it's funny. I have a big play on the LA Kings, but it's not the under. And the reason why it wasn't the under right away was because before I like this team to miss the playoffs. I'll just tell you that, and I'll explain it later. But the reasoning behind that wasn't related to the Drew Doughty injury at all. This was well before that. So now with the Doughty injury, I can see where, okay, yeah, this is definitely a team that goes under 97 points. Beforehand, I thought this could be a team that ends up getting 95, 96, 97 points and just misses out on the playoffs. Now, I believe they firmly miss out on the playoffs, so I would advise an under. But I have a larger stake on no with the playoffs. Like you mentioned, the goaltending is an issue. Darcy Kemper is not the answer. And certainly just the fact that it's just laughable that you got Darcy Kemper back for Pierre-Luc Dubois. Like that was a 1-in-1 trade. It's just insane. But I would digress. We talked about that with those previews. But also you have David Riddick.
A lot, definitely.
Yeah, right. Then you have David Riddick. Then if Copley comes back, okay, from the ACL, and then we see what we have. You got, once again, if you have 3 goalies, you have none, and that's where LA is at right now. Now, I don't know if you've been reading stuff, and obviously Swayman Watch is abreast, but they've been talking about could LA be a player in that, and if that's the case,
they should at the very least be interested. Yes.
If you why not? Because a Swayman changes things drastically. A Swayman makes my giant bet look really bad and dangerous at this point. But you have to do something, because what this team on paper looks like right now is a middle of the road, just above 500 team that misses the playoffs. And I'm not, like I said, you mentioned it yesterday about with the coaching and how, or not yesterday, you mentioned this in the Jets preview, I should say. Good, you guys to go back and watch the Winnipeg Jets preview, which all those will be available after the show as well. But you mentioned about Scott Arniel and how you might realize that might be a money reason why they went and kept, had Arniel rather than going out and getting a Woodcroft or an Everson. And you said that in reference with Jim Hiller too. And I wouldn't be shocked at all if this is kind of we're keeping things in house, not rocking the boat, not going out of our way, especially because with Rob Blake and some of the moves he's made, I can't imagine that his job is too safe. If this team completely falls apart, if Darcy Kemper turns out to be a bust, and then you realize that, wow, you gave up a 1-for-1 and got a goaltender who isn't worth the 2 goaltenders you already had in the stable, and you had just this absolute downfall of a season. Who's to say that Rob Blake's job is safe? And then obviously the next GM who comes in is probably going to bring in his own coach. So it seems like it might be a down with the ship move of, okay, Hiller, I'm tying myself to you, and if we both go down, we both go down together. And that could very well be the case, because I think this is a bad year for the LA Kings.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, we never know if Jeremy Swayman gets traded, and there's now a potential that he is traded, because there's rumblings that they're at the point now where there may be no return for him and the Boston Bruins, at this point. So it's definitely a possibility. that we couldn't
Great
be seeing
comment
him go.
in the chat where it says, yes, Cam Talbot was one of the most consistent players for the Kings last year. Yeah, and he only showed up for half the season. Literally, he was an all-star in the first half of the season and then fell off the face of the earth in the second. He was arguably the most consistent player the entire year last year. So they've gotten worse from last year where they got bounced in the first round. Yeah, where does 97 points come from?
Yeah, no, exactly. Where is it going to be is the question we both have when it comes to the LA Kings this year. All right, season-long player props. Alex, we'll start with you on this one. Season-long player prop in the Western Conference that you're liking.
Yeah, you talking about Seattle Kraken. We talk about how Dan Bosman wants to get everything, moving and grooving on offense, and I think one of the beneficiaries of that would be Jared McCann. I think he has the potential to be a 30 and 90 guy, and that's exactly what I bet. 30 or more goals plus 115 at FanDuel, along with 90 or more points at 6-1 plus 600 at FanDuel. If he can come through with a 30-90 season, that'll pay off nicely, and I think that'll be huge for Seattle. I think those guys who've been playing in this stagnant, having to, whatever you do, hustle back on defense mentality of Dave Hackstall to now being, hey, play your game. Okay. Yes, be responsible defensively, but play your game. You're an offensive playmaker, be an offensive playmaker. You're a goal scorer, score goals. I think everybody's going to settle into their roles a little bit smoother in Seattle, and I think McCann is going to have a big year for that. So McCann, 30 or more goals plus 115, 90 or more points plus 600.
There we go, Jared. And Jared McCann will be, one of the focal points of the Seattle Kraken offensively. So it's hard to dispute that, Jared McCann having an offensive impact for Seattle if they are going to end up being an improved team as far as putting the puck in the net and scoring goals this season. I will start with one, and it's one of the teams I mentioned goes hand in hand with my Utah point total over. Dylan Guenther to get 30 goals at plus 190 at FanDuel. I think he does it. I absolutely think he does it. With all due respect to, some of the other young prospects that they've brought in, Logan Cooley, Barrett Hayton, Matthias Michelli, Michael Carcone. I think as far as a bona fide goal scorer is concerned, Dylan Guenther's got it. He's only scratching the surface. 45 games last year. Didn't even play a full season with this Coyotes team. And he scored 18 goals in those 45 games. I think he's got an excellent chance to be at least a 30-goal guy this year. And he's also going to be playing full-time top six forward this year for the Utah Hockey Club, which wasn't the case when he first started last year. He started down even on the third line when he first got called up for a bit last season with Arizona. So, Dylan Guenther to me is going to have. We saw it a lot last year. I like Dylan Guenther. I like the over points too. I probably like the goals a little bit more because I think his finishing ability is definitely going to be on display. So, Dylan Guenther at plus 190 for the Utah Hockey Club to score 30 goals. And like I said, I like the point prop too for Guenther as well, but definitely the goal prop a little bit more of the two. All right, another one that you like as far as player props for the season, Alex.
Laughing at Nick's comment where he just says Cam Talbot is one of the goalies I've ever seen. No declaration on best or worst, so I would definitely agree with that. Another player prop. I don't think I have another one in the. I don't. That's the only one I have. Okay. Ironically enough, in the West.
There we go. Well, I have a couple more. We'll throw out there as far as player props in the West this year. Another one that I like, and I mentioned Matty Beniers is just I haven't bet it yet, but it's definitely a thought as far as that goes. There's a couple that I like, and one of them goes with an awards prop that I like, and it's actually with the Dallas Stars. There's actually a few I like on Dallas as far as props for the upcoming season. Wyatt Johnston over goals and points. I'm buying in again. I'm buying in. Sophomore slumps always your concern. I don't know if this kid's wired to have a sophomore slump. I think he can be high 30s, 40 goals this year. In fact, I just went for the 40 goals at plus 340. I'm not nickel and diamond this and looking for just the regular over for Wyatt Johnston of the Dallas Stars. I'm looking for him to hit that 40-goal milestone. And another thing, too, FanDuel especially, Bet365 has it too, but the milestone goal and point props where you can bet exactly 30 or more, 40 or more, 50 or more. Sometimes it's worth it to get the better bang for your buck on those than just say, let's go over 36.5 goals. Because if it's late in the season and Wyatt Johnston's on 38 goals with 2 games to go, he is pushing hard to get those 2 goals to get to 40.
Yep.
Making the milestones are important to the player. And in some cases, it's bonuses as far as money is concerned in their contract if they achieve a certain number. So, Wyatt Johnston at 40 goals at a nice price, plus 340, I thought was worth a look. And we can stay with the Dallas Stars as well. I think a full season of Logan Stankoven actually is going to be where he finally, I think, breaks onto the scene. This could be his, Wyatt Johnston year from last year, potentially about to happen for him this season with the Dallas Stars. So I think Logan Stankoven is someone to keep an eye on as far as being able to score goals this year is concerned. I want to see if I've seen any props on him in particular. I don't know if I have yet. This is just a thought in mind. If you happen to see one, I don't think I have, but if it's out there at some point, I think it's possible. I'm just seeing if FanDuel had. I don't think that was the case though. So I haven't seen any Logan Stankoven, but if there were goal props for him, I'd be interested for sure. But Wyatt Johnston's the one for me that stands out here for Dallas this year as far as season-long goal props of interest here in this one. Again, we talk about players that are in contract years as well. Something you want to keep or at least be mindful of, right? You want to be aware of which certain players are in a contract year because oftentimes those are the players that are going to want to put their best foot forward. Again, I'll make the easy, obvious reference to last season with, of course, Sam Reinhart. Sam Reinhart was playing for the big money. There's a UFA going into this year. And what did we see from Sam Reinhart last year? An incredible 57-goal season, and he gets the big money. He gets the bag from the Florida Panthers as a result of that. So this year, looking for those players that are in a contract year this year. I'll mention one from Anaheim, Frank Vetrano. He's a UFA next year. We know he's a very good offensive player.
Yep.
I like Frank Vetrano over goals and points, especially goals. He's definitely more a goal scorer than a playmaker. So Frank Vetrano, over goals, is something that makes sense to me. Playing for the as a UFA for the money next season. How about Brad? Well, that's the East. Sorry, we did the East already. But Brad Marchand was worth a look to me as well. As far as other teams, from the West that I think might be worth a look, again, factoring in that they're going to be UFAs, there's 2 big ones on Colorado, Mikko Rantanen and Jonathan Drouin. You would expect both of those guys to want to put their best foot forward offensively going into this season. So keep an eye on both of them. They may be worth a look as far as UFA is concerned. The captain of the Dallas Stars, Jamie Benn, is going to be a UFA next season. And we saw his offensive game rejuvenated by playing with all these young kids last year with the Dallas Stars. So looking in that direction for goals potentially from Jamie Benn is certainly something to keep an eye on here this season. Let me see here as far as here's one that's down the board here for them as far as a contract year, but it looks like, let me see if I can find it here. I thought there was someone on Nashville too Nyquist, Gustav Nyquist, and we know the kind of bounce back year he had last year with O'Reilly and Forsberg. What an incredible line that was for the Nashville Predators last season. He's a UFA. He's an unrestricted free agent next year. So there's another one that stands out as someone that I think is going to be certainly going to be looking to put up the big numbers this year for sure with the Nashville Predators. Because look, he's not getting any younger. He's coming off a great year, but you have another great year. You're going to lock yourself into probably the last best great contract you're going to have in your career if you're Gustav Nyquist, based on where he is right now at this stage of his career as far as his age. So definitely that is one that makes a lot of sense to me as far as goal props. Again, targeting these players that are in a contract year, playing for one this upcoming season. Let me see what else. There we go for Vancouver. I knew Brock Besser, of course, for the Vancouver Canucks. coming off a great year last year, but now you're a UFA next year, and you haven't been signed yet by the Canucks. Brock Besser's another one that is probably going to be pushing for that over goals and to fill up the back of the net as much as possible to put himself and increase his value as far as being signed in the offseason next year. So Brock Besser's a good over goals candidate using that formula of a guy playing for in his on an expiring contract and will be a UFA next season. What else do we see here? I think there was one more that I was looking at as well from the Western Conference.
All right. Well, I got one while you're looking for that, because I did have a second one, and I had it.
Yeah, it's from Winnipeg. But go ahead. Yeah.
All right. So Philip Gustafson, under 24.5 wins. Like I said, there's a possibility that they could be carrying 3 goalies. If they don't do it the whole year, it seems like at least at the beginning and possibly at least the parts of the second half of the year is when they will be doing this. I don't think this team wins a lot of games, so I don't see any of the 3 goalies getting anywhere near 24 wins, 25 wins. So under 24.5 minus $1.10 with Philip Gustafson. The only thing that's dangerous about that is if he does get moved, I think this bet is still alive, so he can end up getting moved somewhere where he automatically comes the number 1 goalie, and that becomes a little bit troublesome. So I would advise playing it a smaller than some of the other player props, but that is one look that I do have.
All right, there. And the other one is Nikolai Ehlers for Winnipeg. Now, I don't love this one as much because this guy, can he stay healthy? Big question. But Nikolai Ehlers, and he's going to have to, if they're going to be a team that's going to be competitive, win games, they're going to need everybody on board offensively because there is a drop-off in the bottom 6. And Nikolai Ehlers, the one thing I like about Ehlers is the effort. Every night is there. You see it. You see it from him. He plays hard. He's even dropped the gloves every now and then just to, stick up for his teammates, which I give him all the credit in the world for. But that guy cares. He's playing for a contract next year. He's a UFA right now. We know he's got offensive skill. We've seen it throughout his entire career in the NHL, all of it with the Jets. So Nikolai Ehlers, to me, someone that you're going to maybe look at over goals and or over points as well this season. All right, let's go to regular season awards props. I'll start with this one because this is my favorite Western Conference regular season award prop. Miro Heiskanen for the Dallas Stars to win the Norris. I love it. It's 10 to 12 to 1 range is what we're looking at right now with him to win the Norris Trophy as the NHL's best defenseman. This is a player that, for the last couple of years has been among the best defensemen in the NHL. There's been years where he's had opportunity to win this award, but he's been passed over, and they've given the award to other defensemen the last couple of years, including Quinn Hughes last year. But I think this year he has his best chance ever to win this award. And here's the reason why. Sometimes they will not recognize the great defenseman in terms of in his own end. A lot of times to win this award, you got to put up the points too from the blue line. And you've got to be sort of that offensive-minded defenseman as well. Well, they are putting Miro Heiskanen on the other side this year on the blue line. And the thought process behind the change is that it's going to open up Miro Heiskanen as far as he's on his right shot. He's on his, the side of the ice where his shot is going to be more impactful. He'll be able to unlock more offensive parts of his game this year. And I think he is ready to assume that kind of mantle, to be that guy that I'm going to put up a lot of points this year offensively and still be absolutely outstanding defensively in his own end as well. So I think when you look at it, and, he's got to battle Cale Makar and Adam Fox and Roman Josi, Quinn Hughes, Evan Bouchard. Don't rule out Victor Hedman, who I actually think, I didn't mention this yesterday, 20 to 1 is not a bad shot on Victor Hedman now that he's captain of Tampa in that category. But the one I like in the West is Miro Heiskanen, 10 to 1 to 12 to 1, depending on what sports book. I think his offensive game is going to be as great as it's ever been, especially now with where he's going to be playing on that blue line. And of course, he'll maintain that same strong, sound, steady defensive posture and defensive play that we have seen from him over the years. Especially, it's really amazing how well he plays defensively, considering the shit ton of minutes he always plays for this Dallas team, especially in the playoffs. So, yeah, my number one regular season award prop, it's really not even close. I like this so much more than anything else, I bet. as far as the awards props. Miro Heiskanen, Dallas Stars to win the Norris, 10-1, 12-1, depending on which book it is.
So yeah, I have my favorite regular season award prop in the league this year, and of course, players wise, I have a lot of things chopped up amongst Jake Gensel, and I talked about that yesterday in the Eastern preview. But as far as one solid unit on one prop for awards, it is Chris Knobloch to win the Jack Adams Award. Shop around because you will find 10-1 at DraftKings. There's not even a market available at FanDuel. I'm not sure what that's about, but BetMGM has 18-1 on Chris Knobloch to win Jack Adams Award. And here's the reasoning behind it. If he has a good or great Edmonton season, right? So we talk about Edmonton just getting 100 points, 105, 110 points, contending or winning the Pacific Division. You're going to add that to what he did in the last 60 games of last year plus the playoffs, coming in cold on a team that everybody was saying, oh, this team's dead in the water. He brought them all the way back and brought them within one game of winning the Stanley Cup and then turn around and lead them to a successful season again. I think that will be more than enough on the resume for his first head coaching job in the National League, mind you, to give him that award. So I think at 18-1, there's great value there with Chris Knobloch to win the Jack Adams.
Absolutely. Well, we know what magician he was last year. What I was impressed with was the adjustments, right? The alterations he would make from not just game to game, period to period. He really orchestrated and really managed his bench really well. I was so impressed with that. First year NHL coach, he was confident in saying, if I do this and make this change, it's going to make my hockey team better. And sometimes you have these young first-time head coaches in the NHL hesitant to make those changes, upset the apple cart. But he pushed all the right buttons, regular season, especially in the playoffs. The moving up Dylan Holloway up in the lineup. Look at that. He didn't have to do that. Look at the dividends it paid for Edmonton. And then sure enough, the Knobloch likes him, elevates him in the playoffs. Now they no longer have him because St. Louis signed him to an offer sheet and Edmonton didn't match it. Look at the way he managed both Skinner and, of course, Pickard last year. He just did it perfectly.
Masterful.
It was time to take Skinner out in that part of the series early on against Vancouver because it was just not going well for Skinner at all. Just not good enough. Let him have a couple of days to watch from the bench. Pickard held the fort well enough. Put Skinner back in, facing elimination in Game 6, and the rest was history. He was awesome in the final two games to close out Vancouver. Great series. Outplayed a great goalie that we all love in Jake Ottinger in the West Final. And certainly you can't hold the Stanley Cup final loss to Florida at the feet of Stuart Skinner. So he made a great decision with the goaltending, risky as hell, and it paid off to go back to Skinner when he did. Just part of the reason why, to your point with betting Chris Knobloch to win the Jack Adams, he's capable of doing it. He's shown the coaching chops in a little less than a full season to be able to win an award like this.
Definitely. Like you said, what he was able to do with that team in the playoffs, I think really rings large. But just even, I always go back to, it was that pandemic season where he ended up having to come up from Hartford and coach a game, and they win like 9-2. And just the energy at that time, because that Ranger team was kind of just going through the motions at that moment. But the energy he brought then kind of just rang out. And we've seen that, and we've seen these bursts. Like I said, he's just one of those coaches that really speaks his ways. I think he's like a John Cooper type. Remember, we heard all these things about Cooper in the AHL. Then all of a sudden he came up with Tampa, and everything changed. I think that could be the same kind of wave that happens with Knobloch and Edmonton.
Yeah, no question. I don't. You know what? Jack Eichel is a small bet for me with his over goals and points. For Dave mentioned it in the chat. Because I do like that. I saw some level of, especially with Vegas last year, of confidence there. My concern is though with him and Vegas. The one thing why I kept it small is two things: health for Eichel for a full season, and two, all I'm hearing out of Vegas training camp. And Scott Spreitzer and Dana Lane back me up on this. Defense. We're really going to try to tighten things up, try to play a lower scoring brand of hockey. And that doesn't have me as bullish on betting a ton of Vegas over player props for the entire season when I hear shit like that. So Bruce Cassidy really wanting this team to focus on taking care of their details defensively. That being said, I still think Eichel's worth a look, and I do like Dorofeyev, and I mentioned that too on the Vegas preview. I think Dorofeyev is someone that is an X factor for them. I think he's shown glimpses of offensive capability. He's going to, I think, start the year in the top 6, more than likely on the second line, and an opportunity for him to maybe have a good offensive year. So I don't mind either of those looks there. My concern is they're going to try to play low-scoring hockey. Will they get enough goals as a team and individually to hit some of these props, right?
And I think Vegas is a team. I don't know. I mean, we talk about this all the time. You can defense yourself to death and not get any offense. I feel like Vegas would be one of the teams we'd expect that from the least, right? Like I think Cassidy has enough wherewithal to know that you have to keep things balanced. But yeah, like I said, there could be times where we see them shell up, and if they shell up, then yeah, you don't want to do anything with player props on a nightly or seasonal basis.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's no question. Really, the other stuff that I kind of looked at as far as Calder Trophy, Cutter Gauthier, to me, he's got a little value on the Western Conference side with Anaheim. I think it would start there for me. I don't want Celebrini, even though he's got every potential to win it, and he's looking good in preseason. He's also injured now. Keep that in mind. That's unfortunate. And hopefully it's not anything long-term for Macklin Celebrini. But Cutter Gauthier is where I'd start looking as far as a Calder Memorial Trophy. I don't think Hungry Like the Wolf, Dustin Wolf. I mean, we do like the kid. The problem is the team in Calgary going to win enough games, right, for that to happen. You got to win. You can't just win the award as a goalie in that category, the Calder, based on your save percentage and your goals against. The wins have to be there too. The team wins, yeah.
Like unless he ends up winning every single game for Calgary, like if he went 42, if they have 42 wins and he has 40 of them, that's the only way I can really see him being in that conversation. So no, I think he has a great career, but the start will be a little rough. I would advise everyone.
Stankoven too. Yes, I should have mentioned that, Dave. Yes, I do like Stankoven. That is the bet actually. Stankoven, and I like to a lesser extent Gauthier. Yeah,
I was gonna say Logan Stankoven is where I have a smaller bet, and it's predicated on I believe Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith cancel each other out. Being on the same team, and now with Celebrini certainly being day-to-day as well, I think those two guys end up having around the similar amount of points, play the similar style, and in the voters' eyes, they just kind of neutralize one another. So I wouldn't look at either direction for Celebrini or Will Smith. I would go Stankoven as well as far as anybody on the West.
Yeah, as far as Jack Adams from the Western Conference, when I like Knobloch, what Alex said, I'd take a shot with maybe a Tourigny at 60. As you know, I like Utah to be improved. Tourigny, Bilesma at 20. I mean, that's when I really start looking. I look for those bigger prices. You know, I don't want to take your Sheldon Keefes and your Andrew Brunettes and Berubes at less than 10-1. You know, I'm looking more for Tourigny for Utah, 16. Bilesma, Seattle, 20 from the Western Conference. That's where my radar starts.
Brunette wouldn't be too bad of a look, but that would be predicated on if you think Nashville wins the President's Trophy. So if you have a Nashville to win the President's Trophy or Nashville to claim the number 1 seed in the West, then I would also grab some Andrew Brunette. But other than that, yeah, I would agree with you. Look in the middle range.
And it's more, and you want to, with the Jack Adams Trophy, target the teams that are going to have a big jump and improvement from last year to this year. You can't just say, wow, they're going to be great teams. Well, if they're Dallas or they're Colorado and they have great seasons, they're still less likely to have their coach win that award because it's not a big improvement from last year. Dallas being great again this year is not much of an improvement from last year. And the same thing with Colorado. So Bednar and DeBoer and, you know, coaches like that, I don't see them winning it. They usually give it to the coach that has a big jump and a big improvement from one year to the next, like Tocchet last year with Vancouver.
I'll tell you somebody else who I have in pocket, and this is a huge number, and it's predicated on, as we get into the next segment, a playoff prop I like. Drew Bannister at 45-1, available at BetMGM. I think if you get St. Louis in the playoffs, he could be a finalist. So having a 45-1 ticket with a finalist is a good spot to be in. So I will have some of that in pocket.
I mean, all you need to do is look at the fact that Rick Tocchet won Coach of the Year. The Jack Adams last year is like the bottom to win it this year at 50-1. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's never a repeat. Yeah. Throw out anybody that's won in the last 3 years, you can throw out.
Yeah. There you go, and never a repeat winner in that category. So there we go. I think that's about it. I mean, as far as the Vezina from the Western Conference,
I wouldn't bet Hellebuck.
No, that's ridiculous.
If there was a yes no option, late 300, late 350 for
How is
no.
Demko plus 800? He's not even ready to start the fucking season. He's plus 800 to win the Vezina.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, I don't. Let's see. Just looking at Vezina goalies.
When I start looking at well, it's the East, but Vasi. But for the West, Ottinger 12-1. I start looking. Saros 12-1. Nashville. That's where I start looking as
usual
far as
suspects.
Western Conference.
But value wise, Connor Ingram at 45-1.
Yeah, that's not bad. Look, he was great last year. Let's give him his due. That was a great season for him in Arizona last year. But
Aiden Hill at 25-1. If especially we're talking about Vegas being more defensive.
Yep.
At 25-1 isn't horrible. Yeah, I'd rather have 40-1, but 25-1 for Aiden Hill isn't the worst thing in the world. And everybody seems to believe that he was a flash in the pan. I think he's actually a good goalie, a capable number one goalie. 25-1, even if Vegas plays above average hockey, turns into 10-1 by All-Star break, or Four Nations break, I should say. So,
I know Austin Matthews is going to be hard to beat for leading goal scorer this year because we're talking about a guy that almost had 70 last year. But if I'm going to pick someone from the West with value, I'll be honest. I know he's anti the team, but who's going to have to carry them offensively this year is Kaprizov. 10-1. I think he's going to have to go nuts. He's going to have a huge year for the Minnesota. I don't mind that price on him at 10-1. I don't mind that.
I'd rather look at Nathan McKinnon. Because Nathan McKinnon is the Colorado Avalanche. He talk about having to be the team. No, he's been the team for 2.5 years. He's the guy who will put the team on his back and score 8 goals in a week. So if I had to look anybody, all the people I like for that Rocket Richard are in the East. But if I had to look anyone West, it would be McKinnon.
I did bet Mikko Rantanen 30-1, which goes back to what I said about the contract year, UFA year for Mikko Rantanen. He's a UFA after this season. So you factor that in, and the fact that you're getting 30-1, and he's playing top line, number one power play, all the minutes offensively for them, especially if McKinnon gets dinged up again at some point, and Rantanen will have to be an even bigger factor. Now, Rantanen in the playoffs disappointed, but Rantanen in the regular season was fine last year.
Yep. Now, would you be worried about this scenario? He starts off hot. The odds get cut, but then he gets signed mid-season. If he gets extended mid-season, and then all of a sudden he takes the foot off the gas a little bit because he's got paid.
That's
worry
true.
You at all?
That could happen with a few of these guys I've mentioned.
Yeah.
It's the risk you run, certainly. Yeah. If you're going to bet these seasons, every fucking season-long player props the risk you run is they could get hurt. Out for the season after 4 games. Yeah, it's always a risk you run. But that is a particular.
There's some poor sap somewhere is holding a Patrick Laine ticket right now. So you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So
no doubt. All right, Stanley Cup futures. We'll do these now, and then we'll do the Devils Sabres preview for Friday, and then we'll wrap up with best bets at the end of the show. But Stanley Cup futures. I mentioned the New York Rangers and the Tampa Bay Lightning were the two that I bet division conference and Stanley Cup futures in the Eastern Conference yesterday. The Western Conference right now for me, not as many. Nashville, but again, the prices aren't as good. But I have them to win the division, to win the conference, to win the Stanley Cup, the Nashville Predators. I actually bet those right after the season. I mentioned it was 30-1, the Stanley Cup price on Nashville at that time. Obviously, it's not the same now, but even at the worst prices now, I still like Nashville to win the Central, to win the West, and to win the Stanley Cup. I also took Dallas. I'm back on the Dallas bandwagon one more time. Same things, division conference and Stanley Cup. I am targeting Edmonton, but not now. Not as the favorite to win the West or the Stanley Cup. I will see if they have a slow start, which I think is possible, kind of like Florida in the East. And then we'll see if we can get a better price on Edmonton later in the season. But I don't count out that coach, Knobloch, which Alex likes so much, and the will of this team. And we're going to see it on full display when the Amazon Prime Inside the NHL series premieres tomorrow. Connor McDavid has showed a completely different side of him that he's not shown publicly or we've not seen publicly. And people have always said, is he enough of a vocal leader for a guy that's pretty dull in his interviews? Let's not kid ourselves. He is. Has he got that in him, that in him as a captain? And he showed it. in a lot of these, preview highlights that they've shown of this Amazon Prime series. And that team knows that they were so close. And the team they just lost to is a team that came right back the next year, went all the way back to the Stanley Cup final and won it after losing in the final the year before. They can see that blueprint and say, why not us here in Edmonton to do that? But I'm not betting it at this price. I'm going to wait to see if maybe there's a little slow start, little sluggish beginning for Edmonton, and we'll see if we can get a better price later in the season. Alex, your Stanley Cup futures for the West.
Yeah, so I got a few of them for the West. So we'll start with Dallas. You mentioned I like them to win the President's Trophy. I got plus 10-1. And I also have to finish with the most points in the Western Conference plus 480. So I bet those because there's just better numbers than betting them to win the Central. I can always find a better price to win for them to win the Central, as we saw the point loop around that happen with the top three last year. There was at least 3 to 4 weeks where we had a chance to grab any of the top three in the Central at plus money. So there's no rush to grab anything division wise. Just look for the higher kind of props and higher price things with futures. As far as teams to make or miss playoffs, I have Minnesota Wild to miss the playoffs plus 130, St. Louis Blues to make the playoffs plus 205. I also have Minnesota Wild to get the least points in the league at 150-1. That's a small shot. And as I mentioned earlier, Utah Hockey Club to get 90 or more points. Nashville over Minnesota under. And then the one more bet that I have, I'll save for my best bet.
All right, good stuff. I like a lot of those. On board with a lot of those. Seattle, yeah, I didn't want to make those like I sprinkled on Seattle with all those, but it's small. I'm talking about just naming the two ones that I've got a significantly bigger investment on out of the West for Division, Conference, and Stanley Cup. And to me, the two big ones are Dallas and Nashville. Those are the two. I will go with for my official. Now I got to go with my official Stanley Cup final pick here. I had the Rangers yesterday representing the East. I'm good. It was tough for me between Dallas and Nashville. I was back and forth. Because and don't discount Edmonton either. I certainly don't. But I'm going to go Rangers Stars Stanley Cup final, and I'm going to go. Sorry, Matt. Sorry, Robinsons. Sam Rosen's final year, and he's going out a champion in his final year. I'm going to go Rangers to win the Stanley Cup over the Dallas Stars in the final. There you go.
Interesting. So we have the exact same Stanley Cup final matchup. I like Rangers. I like Stars. But I think the Cup's coming to Big D. Give me Dallas. Play some fucking Pantera all summer long. Sorry, Sam. Dallas gets the Cup this year.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a hell of a series. I think Dallas, the way I see it is Dallas probably would have the more well-rounded team, but the Rangers have Shesterkin, who, and as much as I love Ottinger, I'll take Shesterkin over him right now.
Now, what happens? What happens if that becomes the final matchup and those two have a goalie duo of a lifetime that goes 7 games? How much money are those two going to get?
I know. I mean, they're going to set the goalie market, totally on fire now. They're going to set themselves so much higher than the rest of the goalies in the league. It'd be a fucking incredible.
Probably be willing to pay Swayman $8 million after that, huh?
Yeah. No doubt. Yeah. I would say so. Yeah. I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. I think $8 million might be a little low for everybody at that point. So.
No doubt. All right, there we go. All right, we'll get to the best bets at the end, and it can be anything. It could be one of the futures from the West, or it could be something from this game coming up on Friday. It is the first regular season game of the NHL season, taking place in Prague, Czechia, formerly known as Czech Republic. They want it to be Czechia now. New Jersey and Buffalo. We've got the Devils minus 140 favorites, 6.5 the total. So we're talking about a New Jersey team that I've said all preseason, all offseason in our Devils preview video. Everything Devils is overvalued, in my opinion, starting the season. Their futures price overvalued. Division props overvalued. Conference futures overvalued. They are a much better team, yes, but they're being priced like the favorite, co-favorite to win the Stanley Cup, right there to win the division and the conference. I'm not there yet with New Jersey. Quite yet. And I like Sheldon Keefe. Great regular season coach, but winning at playoff time, that'll be the test for him and this Devils team. They're obviously much better. But here's the thing with the Devils coming into this 2-game series with Buffalo to begin the year. Part of the reason why we like this team to be better defensively, because we know what they've got up front. Meyer, Hughes, Bratt, Tatar, Heeshear, Mercer, Palat, Howlett, Stefan Nason's a great addition. They're going to be able to score goals. There's no denying that. The blue line's improved. Dougie Hamilton's healthy. Brendan Dillon brought in from the Winnipeg Jets. Simon Nemec is a guy that really played well down the stretch, but they're without Luke Hughes to begin the year. And the one player of anybody that was going to make this team a lot better defensively, he's out to begin the season, and he didn't even make the trip with the New Jersey Devils to Prague, and that's Brett Pesce. Brett Pesce's not playing either of these 2 games here in Czechia, and that is someone that was definitely going to be a big help to this blue line. Jacob Markstrom, they're better in net, there's no doubt, but like I said, that blue line still, there's new faces. The guy that was supposed to be the pillar of shutdown D on that blue line still not ready to go. He's injured. I'm not laying a minus 140 with the Devils. Let's put it that way. Am I chomping at the bit to bet Buffalo here? Not really. But if you made me choose, we'll lean Buffalo. I do like over 6.5. That is the one play. Now, this is a small play. We're not going, with big units here in this very first game of the season. But the way I see it, Lindy Ruff is pushing pace in preseason with this Buffalo group. Is a team that underachieved offensively last year, and I think they're going to be a lot better at that end of the ice. They're going to get back to scoring more goals, like closer to what they scored 2 years ago as a team. With Tage Thompson having a better year, of course, they got the veteran Alex Tuch. I mean, Zach Benson, Dylan Cousins, and Jack Quinn could be quite the offensive group on that second line. JJ Paterka, who had a great year last year, on fire in the preseason. Look at his preseason numbers, JJ Paterka. He's been really lighting it up in the preseason here for Buffalo. And then you've got Ryan McLeod now from the Oilers, Jason Zucker. Beck Malenstein is someone that can chip in from the fourth line. Sam Lafferty, Nicholas Obey-Kubel. These are all guys that can, give you a little punch from the fourth line on offense. And then the blue line, Dahlin now the captain. You're healthy back there pretty much for the most part to begin the year. And Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen and Devin Levi, like I said, there's still some proving ground for both of those guys. So, and I believe the first game of the Europe games last year, if I'm not mistaken, also was one of those higher scoring games. And then the second one, it kind of calmed down a little bit. So for me, I've got to bet over 6.5. Have not bet aside, but I would prefer Buffalo plus 120 than minus 140 here with New Jersey. Alex, what do you think here? Devils, Sabres in Prague.
Well, it's a wait and see, because I don't really care to bet these games in Europe at any point of the season, but certainly not at the beginning of the year. And like you said, there's a lot of question marks and a lot of things I need to see from both these clubs. Now, I have a bet on Buffalo once they get back to the States. On the game on October 10th, I laid $1.02 against them against the LA Kings, and that's predicated more of a Kings fade. And I do think that the Sabres, especially if they can come home with at least a split, but even if they get a sweep, that would be good momentum for them. And then to be back home, Ruff's official return back, and getting everything rolling. The buzz in that building is always high at the beginning of the year, right? Everybody in Buffalo is waiting for this to be the season they get back to the playoffs. So everybody's, all signs pointing up, glass half full, not empty in October. So I think that's the reason why I like Buffalo next week. But here in these 2 games, I more than likely won't have anything on it. I would lean toward Buffalo to get the first goal. Now, if I do have anything like that, it would be something I could bet in game. So nothing pregame for the first 2 official games of the season over in Prague.
Yeah, for a goal, here we go. Our first chance to talk props, right, for a game.
Yeah.
Paterka, not obviously the best price, but you're getting upwards of plus 200 still. Paterka is a great goal prop in this game, in my opinion. You can go with Tage as well, but I like Paterka even more because Paterka produced last year. He's been good in the preseason this year offensively. So Paterka for sure for Buffalo. Cousins, Benson, anyone from that second line, I think, is live to score a goal in this game for the Sabres as well. Benson and Cousins and Quinn. Take your pick. I think all three. Sprinkle on it, all 3 of them. If 1 or 2 of them hit, you're going to end up profitable. There's only one player between these 2 teams expected to be on the ice in the lineup on Friday and Saturday that is from Czechia between the 2 teams, and that's Ondrej Palat for the New Jersey Devils. So if you're looking at that angle, someone playing in their home country, they want to show out and have a big game and maybe score a goal. Andre Palat is that one player for New Jersey that is playing in front of his home country here. Nobody on Buffalo, at least based on who's going to make the lineup tomorrow, is from Czechia. And there's only one for New Jersey, and that's Palat.
So maybe look at Palat to get a goal anytime, or Palat 2 points or more. Maybe something.
Yeah.
That will.
Not the best offensive year last year, let's be honest, for him with New Jersey. So, but in this spot, I'd be willing to bet it. For Andre Palat. And certainly you're going to, based on the situation, him playing at home, like plus 425, I'm seeing at some spots for him to score a goal. That's not bad at all. And how about our old friend, Stefan Nason, New Jersey Devils? Always value. He's going to play on the power play again like he did in Carolina, a role he thrived in. He's upwards of plus 410 to score a goal in this game for New Jersey. So there you go. A few player props that get us started here with this first game of the season with the Devils and the Sabres. Shout out to everyone in the chat. We appreciate it. Hit the like button on the way out. Just briefly, because we won't be on till Tuesday, the Saturday game, obviously we're going to have to see what happens tomorrow. It would be one of those games where I think if it was a under tomorrow, I'd go over on Saturday. And if whoever loses tomorrow, maybe more likely to want to bet them Saturday. Not saying I will, but those would be leans for me based on what happens tomorrow.
We were looking through the European games yesterday, and we noticed that the trend to the overs, if the overs were set at 6 flat, 8, 3, and 2 to the over. So obviously the larger ice surface guys, more often than not, you have more guys playing at home, so they'd be jazzed up, and that tends to lead to some higher scoring. But like you said, it kind of remains to be seen. So obviously, and if we do have anything we like, we'll post it on the Patreon page, patreon.com/iceguys. Definitely check that out. Sign up $10 a month over there. Also, do want to mention too, Ian, before you get to the ads and everything, the Ice Guys store. Definitely want to check that out. iceguys.myspreadshop.com. We've got a bunch of new items in the store. We got some of the new logo items that are in there as well, and it's free standard shipping for the next week. So from now, in the next 7 days, you can get free standard shipping with your order. So get all of your merch ready for the new season. We're coming back, and we've got, like I said, a lot of great items in the store. So definitely check that out. Free standard shipping all week at iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
All right. Yeah. Check out the store. It's a great discount right now available at the Ice Guys store. So make sure you check that out for sure. And again, patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 per month. Again, we got to get everyone back. I know there's a lot of people that either paused their subscription or canceled over the summer. Can't blame you. Of course, content was a little bit lighter during that time, but we're back, baby. We've got all the team preview videos there. We're going to have live, again, just like last year, exclusive to Patreon members, live betcasts this season. Later on, we're going to have more articles, more written content on the page. The daily betting cards, sides, totals, and player props will be posted each and every day once again on the Patreon page. So again, just it's $10 per month still. We're not inflation be damned. We're giving you we're doing you a solid here. Inflation and cost of living everywhere going up, but not the price of a Patreon Ice Guys membership. It's still just $10 per month. So check it out. Get on board. Patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 per month. Great content exclusively there for
like you mentioned. Like you mentioned, not only are we keeping the price the same, but we're adding more content this year. We're finally getting to a point now where we're getting more of the written content, exclusive articles. We're going to be a bit more interactive this year with everybody in the Patreon page as well. So definitely the time to sign up now. $10 a month. I've seen there are some people who signed up for the year already. If that's what you wish to do as well, you can sign up and take care of it all in one fell swoop. But either way, definitely want to be on board. Definitely want to make sure you can get the card. Like I said, there were times and points last year where some things we added late because of breaking information. We didn't get to talk about it on the show, but it ended up on the Patreon card, the final card in the evening. So you don't want to miss out on that. Just $10 a month.
All right, no doubt. Great stuff. Yeah, patreon.com/Ice Guys. We got a lot of great stuff planned for you. We're also going to do a few Players Suite interview shows pre-recorded during the season. Not many, but we will have a couple for you during the season as well. All right, we've got our first bargain bin special of the night coming up. We've got our first best bet, including game action, I should say, best bet coming up right after we hear from our great sponsors, Boston Hemp Inc. right, Boston Hemp Inc. Again, 20% off all orders on the site using the promo code IceGuys at bostonhempinc.com. One thing I wanted to say, too, about the daily betting card, we're going to try to get it posted a little earlier this year on a daily basis.
Yep.
Definitely, and I think the plan is we're going to get the card up early with our initial bets, and anything we add later in the day, we can add it and edit the post, put in the new bets, the ones we've added, and save it, and you'll see the bets we add just before puck drop as well. But we'll get the initial set of bets that we like up and posted on the page a little earlier this year.
Yeah, sounds good.
Good stuff. All right. I know you guys have been craving this. I know you've waited since the Stanley Cup final last year, Game 7, for another one of these. And I'm talking about the bargain bin special of the night. What a hit this was. What a smash hit this was the first season that we did it here on the Ice Guys show. Cashing 300, 400, 500 plus price tickets left and right throughout the course of the season. We'll see if we can try to deliver more winners with the bargain bin special this year. I don't know if you've got one, Alex, but I'll let you have the floor if you've got one.
Unfortunately, I don't have one yet. I know everyone's waiting. I will have one for Tuesday for opening night, but I don't have one now. So for me, you're gonna have to wait a few more days. I know everyone was excited. We ended on the high note last year. Carter Verhaeghe first goal in that Game 7, 11-1. And like you said, this is one of the best segments we could have ever imagined. We had no idea when we started this a year ago what it would turn into, but the phenomenon continues. But you guys have to wait a little bit longer for me.
I'm going to go with the man playing in front of his home country tomorrow, Andre Palat, New Jersey Devils, plus 425 at the score bet. ESPN bet has it at that price as well. Like I said, he's the only man representing Czechia playing in that Devils-Sabres game tomorrow. Andre Palat, New Jersey Devils, plus 425 for my bargain bin special for that game tomorrow. All right. Bargain best bets now. This can be anything, including, of course, one of the futures from the West. Alex, what do you like here for your best bet?
So this is a future, and it's the one future I haven't yet to fully mention completely, but it's the LA Kings to miss the playoffs. Now, full disclosure, I bet this very early for 1 unit at plus 200. Like, I'm talking like in July. And then shortly after the Drew Doughty injury, they still – couple of books still had 190 or 195 posted. DraftKings actually had a plus 195, so I added another unit for that. So I personally have 2 units on LA Kings to miss the playoffs between 195 and 200. Those prices have now since dropped pretty much everywhere to plus 160. So what I'm advising is 1 unit on plus 160 to miss the playoffs for the LA Kings, and then 1 unit under 96.5 points for the LA Kings as well. They opened the season with a brutal 7-game road trip that ends with a 8 p.m. local start on October 22nd. That, of course, being the last game to start for the Frozen Frenzy, I should say. Say that 5 times fast. The Frozen Frenzy ending with Vegas and LA, 8 p.m. local time game. So to have that long of a trip bouncing around the East, landing back in the West against the rival, and with a later start time, then you start your first journey back home. That's just a rough way to start with a team that's missing their heart and soul, Drew Doughty, for the next 2 to 3 months, and just doesn't look that good between the pipes with either of the goaltenders you pick, and a forward group that can be inconsistent at times. I just don't think this LA King team is nearly as good as they were the last couple of years, and they weren't that great the last couple of years. So I expect a downward year in Hollywood. Give me LA Kings to miss the playoffs and the under with the LA Kings this season.
There you go. Miss the playoffs, the LA Kings, and I co-sign that. I think it's going to be difficult for this team to find their way into the postseason this upcoming season. So that is Alex's best bet. My best bet, I'm going to go to the excuse me, I'm going to go to the futures as well. I'm going to go to the Nashville Predators to win the Central Division. Plus 490 is the price you can get with that at FanDuel right now. I know there's Colorado to deal with. I know there's Dallas to deal with. But I think Nashville, and the thing is with those two teams as well, Colorado and Dallas, it's pace yourself, boys. Don't have to win the division. Dallas, they've been to the conference final 2 years in a row. Who gives a flying fuck about winning the Central Division? Just get in the playoffs, and then once you get in, anything can happen. We've seen it year in and year out. Nashville, to me, is the team that's got the chance to take advantage of this. And I think they've got the team that can compete and even upend Colorado and Dallas to win this division. So Nashville plus 490 to win the Central Division for my best bet here on this Western Conference season preview show. One couple last things from the people in the chat I wanted to mention. Dahlin prop makes sense. I don't mind. I might put a couple bucks on that tomorrow for that game too. His first game as a Sabres captain. I want to show you what I'm all about. How I'm going to lead this team. Plus 450 is not a bad price given that for sure. No doubt about that. And DeBerry Smith, no preseason for me. No preseason betting for me.
I haven't bet anything preseason yet and won't.
No, not interested. Actually, I tried with it a couple of years ago and even a bit last year. I found when you tried to bet the teams that had the great lineup, the experienced lineup against the team that had the AHL lineup outplayed the veterans on the other team, because they're more hungry to show what they can do. And the veterans are just trying to pace themselves for the regular season. So, for me, not enough edges.
Another reason, too, and we've seen it obviously with all these injuries that have happened in preseason, when a big player gets hurt, usually the game comes to a screeching halt. So if you have any overs, you have the team that's trailing when at the time of an injury, forget about it.
Exactly. But appreciate the question, though. No doubt about that. All right, great stuff. A shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button on the way out. And we get going for real. Season premiere of the Ice Guys show next Tuesday, October 8th, 2 p.m. Eastern. And we will get you ready for North American opening night of the season with an ESPN triple header to get the season started next Tuesday. Make sure you join us for the season premiere show. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron, and enjoy the weekend, and hope you enjoyed the conference previews, and we will be back with you on Tuesday for the opening night of the season and the season premiere edition of the Ice Guys.